Hello and welcome to another episode of Face to Face. My name is Godfred Akoto Boateng. My guest today is a medical professional. She's a humanitarian, she's a women's advocate, she's an entrepreneur, and also politician. Dr. Grace Ayensu Danquah is our guest on Face to Face. Welcome back to Face to Face, and welcome, Dr. Ayensu Danquah.
Thank you, Godfred.
It's not every day that I have such an accomplished person sitting in front of me. Yes, I know. She's blushing. I like it.
Oh, but really? Okay.
Let's start from the beginning, though. How does one become like a Dr. Grace Ayensu Danquah? When did it all start for you?
Well, it takes a lot of hard work. It doesn't come easy, but, I like to work. I'm just a regular Ghanaian girl, was born in Isikadu, grew up there. My grandmother was the Queen Mother then. I went to Chapel Hill Preparatory School. Then after Chapel Hill, I went to Holy Child Secondary School. I did a little bit at St. John's Preparatory in Accra, like a year and a half or 2 years in St. John's Preparatory. And then I went to Holy Child Secondary School. So I did Form 1 to Form 5, which was my O-levels at Holy Child. Then after Holy Child, I went to Archbishop Potter's Girls Secondary School in Takoradi for my 6th form.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do science.
We'll get to that.
Then from there, I went to America. I did 1 year of national service. I didn't finish really, but almost finished. And then at the National Service Secretariat here in Accra. And then as soon as I finished within that, almost like the last month, I went to the States.
Okay.
I spent most of my adult life prior to now, 2012, I came to Ghana. But I spent most of my life in America. When I went there, I started off at Pace University in New York, trying to do accounting, but that didn't really work. I didn't like it. I couldn't balance the books.
Really?
So, yes. And New York was too fast and quick for me. So my cousins lived in California. So then I moved to California then I went to USC to do my undergraduate, my first degree.
So you're a Trojan, eh?
I'm a true blood Trojan.
Okay.
So I went to USC, University of Southern California, to do my undergrad. I did biology or biochemistry, but more with a minor in Judeo-Christian religion, because I did religion in 6th form. So I wanted to keep it up. And so I studied Judeo-Christian religion for my first degree, was my minor. Then from there, I went straight to University of Wisconsin to do my medical education. So it's a 4-year program.
Okay.
So after the 4 years, then I took 2 years off and I went to Baltimore, Johns Hopkins University School of Hygiene and Public Health.
Okay.
And there I did my master's in public health, in international health, with emphasis on international health, with emphasis on disaster management and humanitarian assistance. So when I finished that, then I went back to finish my medical education. So I went to Michigan, and I did a 5-year general surgical residency.
You must be one conflicted person. You're a Trojan, and then you're a Wolverine.
And I was a Badger.
Yeah, Wisconsin as well.
Right.
You've been through phases.
And a Green Bay Packer. So after that, I finished my general surgical training. Then I went to San Diego, University of California in San Diego, to do a 2-year fellowship, mainly in burn and burn reconstruction and trauma. But I did the burn reconstruction part is more like a reconstruction for plastic surgery. And so people say plastic surgery, but I try to pull it in and say more reconstructive than I do plastics, because mine is not just the cosmetic part, but it's more about, the burn patients. Sometimes they lose an ear, sometimes they lose a nose, or they're disfigured. And then what you do is try to fix it without being purely cosmetic. Cosmetic means that the person is looking good, already healthy, then comes in and says, oh, I want to fix my nose. That's a different kind of patient. what I do with reconstruction, the person who is already injured by trauma or burn or some sort of an accident, then they need certain parts fixed and reconstructed, then that's where I come in. So it's more like a sick person already who has a problem, not just a typical cosmetic part. So people get confused, like she's not a plastic surgeon, I hear it all the time. But that's how the plastics tie into the reconstructive part. But I prefer the reconstructing than plastics. If I want to do, like, make extra money maybe, then I'll do the cosmetic thing. But in general, I prefer being in the hospital, in the ICU, in the trauma, trying to fix people who have had injuries already. So.
It's been quite the switch as you went through your history from a religions background. So basically you moved from a humanities background into a pure science medicine sort of background. How did that happen? It does not look like you had any love for the humanities, because if I look at the investment in science, once you got to the States, what happened in between there?
I love the humanities because I think that the basic, I think that my belief is that everybody should get a basic humanities undergraduate or first degree. Because it makes you a more in-depth person. It makes you think better. You know better logic. As opposed to people just going straight into science. That's just my feeling. It might not necessarily be true. But I really believe that your first degree should be a basic humanities degree. Because that is how, then you build onto that with everything else. Because once you know like right now as a surgeon, I can quote you all the Shakespeare things. There's no literature that I really can quote because I studied it, and that gives you a broader base to start off with, and then you can subspecialize or pick one thing you like. But when you're well-rounded and when you can cover different topics, it makes you a more interesting person. So that's what I did in sixth form. I did religion. I studied religion, religion, history, and English literature. So those were my 3 subjects in sixth form. And I loved all of them because, of course, English literature, I'm still a scientist, but I can quote my literature books and all the great authors and things. Then my religion, I'm not like super religious, like Bible thumping religion, but I can quote you all the religious verses because I actually studied it and I loved it. And I can have discussions in religion about the ecumenical councils and how the Bible came to be and all these other in-depth things that a normal doctor would not know because I studied it. So I think it just makes me more interesting.
You have a bit of an advantage in the interesting. And after that, you went into teaching as well.
So after I finished all that, I did 1 year because in America, most of the medical education is to teach, to teach you how to be a leader and to teach, especially in the surgical field. We have leadership classes and leadership skills because eventually we are going to be the leaders of the world or of America. So teaching is a big component of what we do. So once you're going through, so when I go to it's a 5-year program for just the surgical part. So when I get to the second year, then the second years will manage the first years. So by the time I got to 5th year, then you become the chief resident. That means you're responsible for teaching all the other residents 1 through 4 underneath you. And you just, it's a process of teaching you leadership and how to teach. Or just impact knowledge down to the people that need it. And then the people above me will also impart knowledge down to me. So it's almost like the teaching philosophy of most of our medical education in the States. So after that, I did private practice for a little bit. And I had my own private practice in California. The hospital was Barstow, California, and I was the vice chair of the Department of Surgery. It was a really good hospital. I loved Barstow, except that it was too far, and most of my family were in the East Coast. So then I moved to Maryland, and I worked a little bit in Maryland, and after that, I moved to Ghana. So since I've been to Ghana, I like teaching, of course.
So what motivated the move, though? Because it looked like everything was happening for you in the States. Why suddenly the return?
I had a good life, don't get me wrong. It was beautiful and good. But all along as I'm going through all these processes, going through my medical education, I knew that I'll come to Ghana someday. And it was because my parents told me to come back someday. And I also knew that I wanted to come back when I was healthy enough and not when I'm retired, because most of my friends in America at the time only came back to Ghana when they retired. Only a few people came when their career was like going up. So, but I didn't want to wait till I retire, because I felt like by the time you retire, you don't have the energy to go back home and do anything. So that even advised me, or one of the reasons why I went ahead and did my master's in public health. Because as a surgeon, you don't really need a master's in public health. It's not going to add much to what you do surgically. I only did that because I knew that eventually when I came back to Ghana, I would need the public health background, because at some point I wouldn't be just me and one of my patients in the consultation room where it's a one-on-one thing. I would want to influence policy, or help shape policy. And when you have to do that, then it's a master's in public health, because you're looking at the public as a whole entity, not that one individual in your consultation room. So those were the reasons that advised me, or I used to do a master's in public health. It was not needed. Nowhere in my path as a surgeon would I ever need a master's in public health. But I specifically did that because I knew that someday I will come home and I would need a much broader view of health than just me and my patients sitting in the consultation room and then operating on someone in that sense. So it really, in hindsight, it was 2 years of a lot of work that I probably didn't need to do. But in hindsight, it was good. I'm glad I did it, because now I see things from a different perspective than even what some surgeons do. Because I'm looking at a much broader population-wide look than the one-on-one patient thing.
Okay, so you came back home, you've done some teaching at the UCC, or you still do teach there, and also at the Ensign School as well. But politics, though, let's go there. Where did that love also come from? You were busy. You should have been way busier than that.
I'm a lot more busier than I even looks on paper. Okay, so since I came back to Ghana, I had an NGO. I set up I started doing the work before I even registered the NGO. So the NGO is called Healing Hands Organization. So what we do is once every month, we do a free medical outreach. But it's not just medical outreach or just screening. We do a full clinic. So we bring medicines, we bring a pharmacist. I have 2 doctors, I have 2 nurses. We will check your vital signs. We will do malaria testing, blood glucose testing. Sometimes we have hepatitis kits, rapid tests. We'll do that. And you see a real doctor and get a real diagnosis and come to our pharmacy, and we'll give you free medicines. And all of this, every year, I put down 10% of my income. Okay. And it's like tithes, 10% for church, and then the other 10% for my charity work. Then I have a lot of good friends and philanthropic people around me, my family, and who would contribute. So we do that every month to buy the medicines and things. Then every year we do a surgical outreach where my friends from the States, one of my previous professors, his name is Dr. Glenn Gelhood. He comes from the States. He brings about 15, 16 people, medical students, doctors, nurses, all kinds of different groups of multidisciplinary group. Then we do a surgical outreach. So that means that they are in country in Ghana for like 3 weeks. And we see everybody. When you have malaria, when you have high blood pressure, everybody, all comers. Mm-hmm. But then we screen for those who need surgery. So hernia, thyroid, lipoma. When we're in the hospital and there's a C-section that comes up, we'll do it. Whatever is needed, we'll do free of charge. And we've done this maybe starting 2013 every year. And the last time we saw about maybe 3,000 people, and we did about 500 operations for free. Okay. Like, we don't charge even 1 peso or anything. Everything is free. Maybe the hospital will take something for your card or the booklet. Okay. In the beginning, I used to buy the booklet. but then I don't know what to do with it after. So now what I do is I just let the hospital, you keep your records in the hospitals that we go to. Mainly, we've gone to Kwesi Hospital and we've gone to Esikado Hospital, only because that's where I'm from and because it's cheaper for me, because when they come in country, I have to house them and I pay for the housing and the food. And because my family houses are in Esikado, it's cheaper, then I don't have to go and rent. And then I have a sister who's very good at cooking and doing all that. She's a caterer. So she helps. Yeah, she cooks for the groups. I don't have to pay extra money. So all these things is like all of my family contributions, and we have like vehicles there to transport them back and forth. My brother has a company and sometimes he lends us his company van, those kinds of things. So it's cheaper for me to do it in my area where I live than to do it outside.
Okay.
But sometimes I wish I could take it outside, but it's just a financial problem.
Okay.
So we've done this and it's good. But as I'm going through doing all this work, because my NGO has gone everywhere, literally, especially within where I'm from. I'm from Esikado, so I like to stay in my area. And I never really thought about politics, even though I'm very vocal.
Okay.
You know, I have strong opinions. I say what I want to say. And sometimes I get a lot of backlash for it. But I feel like I'm in a privileged position where I don't really work for the government, right? And I don't really work for anyone. I'm doing my own job, work thing. So in Ghana, a person with my credentials and where I stand right now, I think it's a unique place to be so that I can criticize without fearing that somebody will sack me from the work or, you know, so almost there's not a lot of people in my position who don't really work for the government.
Yeah.
Then when you're going to criticize, then you have to be careful because they can take your job away from you. And, you know, there's a lot of little nuanced things around there. So I try to be a part of it and give a voice to the people who can really speak. And sometimes it's a strong and a harsh voice, but I don't really mean it in like a true partisan, me I'm NDC, me I'm MPP strong thing. But sometimes people think that that's what I'm trying to do. But I only like to do that because I feel like it's a unique opportunity and it will be bad or even worse, I would have done a disservice if I didn't give that voice, if I didn't have that voice.
Okay.
So that's why I try to use that voice for a lot of things. So I've been talking, I have issues, the hospital systems, I've been to almost all the facilities in the Western region, and I see how deprived we are. You know, the lack of the basic things, you know, the infrastructure, the roads, the public toilets, how old they are, how long they've been there, what the people have to even go through in the morning to go to public toilets. You know, the water, where they have to go and fetch it. And some of these things I go back there and I sit in my car going back home and I'm like depressed. And I don't understand. This is 21st century. Okay, maybe sometimes people think I'm being idealistic.
No, that's
but
fair.
I can only accept that, yeah, I'm being idealistic. But what is wrong with being idealistic and wanting more for someone else? Because I could have easily chosen two options. I go back to America, I'm a surgeon, the money is great, my life is good. I don't have that many children, so I think I can take care of them. Or come to Ghana, enjoy and go back and complain, or be a part of the process to fix the problem. So those were my two dilemmas. And you know, of course, I'm going to take the road less traveled.
Okay. So then, by taking that road, of course, there was an attraction to an ideology. You've described a sense of what drove you, at least. What was the attraction to the NDC ideology? Because that is eventually where you ended up. And that is where you are going to contest the seat. And we'll get to the constituency in a bit. But talk to me about the attraction to the ideology, because you've described your love for politics. Yeah. You could have gone either way. You could have gone independent if you wanted to. Why the NDC? Because
in I told you, like, most of my adult life was outside the country. But since I've been back, or before then, when I was really interested in knowing what's happening in the country, I realized that in Ghana or in most African countries, politics dictate everything. Sometimes it can even dictate where you live. Sometimes it can dictate where you work. If you are of a wrong party and you don't have a certain party card, even your job could be at stake. You understand? In America, those things don't happen. So we talk about Democrats and Republicans, we argue, and then the next day, nothing, everything happens. It doesn't matter. My water will still run in the tap. My electricity will still be there. The road in front of my house is still good. You know, I still have all the amenities. And if we don't have the amenities, Republicans and Democrats will get together and go and complain at City Hall. You understand? So we don't let the politics divide us from our common things, the commonalities that we have. We don't let the politics divide us from whether our school is good or bad. What I see in Ghana is, I'm NDC, you are MPP, right? We live in the same house. Our children, the road in front of our house is horrible, it's dusty. Every morning we have to cover our noses to even sit in our car, especially our children are developing asthma. When you go to the school is bad. The desks are all broken, some of them, you know, you see. Bad is not good. But because my government is in power, and we live in the same household, and we are repairing our car on this bad road every day, we will never agree that it's even true. You say it's red, I'll say it's black. Then we'll argue about red and black, and by the time we finish arguing, we haven't changed anybody's mind. But you're still on your red side, and I'm still on my black side. You understand? So we can't look beyond the political thing and even look at what is in our own interest. You understand? So I feel like people like me need to come into the political arena and remind people that, listen, if the water is not good in the house, it doesn't matter whether it's NDC or MPP in power. Our water is not good. We are dying. We'll go to the hospital with GI problems, gastrointestinal problems. It wouldn't, the intestinal problem, the worms, or when they are coming, they won't say, oh, this one is MPP stomach and this one is NDC stomach. You know, the water is bad. We are both drinking. Our children are drinking it. So that seems like a hard concept for people to grasp. So seeing all these things and seeing how some of the places I've been to is that deplorable. And seeing that there's only one person who has been in charge of this whole process for 16 solid years. And I'm not seeing anything. I mean, they keep saying that, oh, and Doc is lying, that this is that. But it's the truth on the ground. I'm not even making things up.
Yeah, I will get to the constituency and what has been happening for 16 years.
So when I see those things and I see what's happening in our health, I see education, I see our recreation, I look at all these sectors as a whole, I realize that, and I complain. Then I used to have this friend, right? Every time I go into the operating theater, and I used to work at night, like a full shift, 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours, and I haven't slept. And I get into the theater, and I'm so tired, and I say, oh, Lord, why me? Then this, my anesthesia friend, who I always work with, says, and the Lord said, why not you? Right? So who should fix it? For me to come from Abuja and say, hey, this time when I went to Ghana, you should go and see the hospital. It's really nice. You know, they have this. Hey, they even have, you know, ICU with 12 beds, and they all have ventilators. Who's going to do that job for me to come and enjoy? So if the thing is going to change, that means that I need to be a part of that change, and I need to bring my education, my strength, my energy, my ideas to help build the thing, so that when it's good for all of us.
Okay. All right, then hold on for me. We are on face-to-face speaking to Doctor, you can add Professor if you want to, Grace Ayensu Danquah. And the reason why you keep hearing constituency, she's the NDC parliamentary candidate for Eskadu Ketan. When face-to-face returns, we will go into detail on the fight for Eskadu Ketan come 2020 December. Welcome back to Face with Dr. Grace Ayensu Danquah, parliamentary candidate for the NDC in the upcoming election for the Eskadu Ketan constituency. So let's go to Eskadu Ketan. It looks like you are very much in tune with what happens there, even though you spent a lot of time outside. You've done a lot of work there even whilst you were away. For 16 years, it's a constituency that the NPP has held sway with a very formidable, admittedly, member of parliament, somebody who a lot of people think can even become president of this country one day. Yes. What makes you think you can remove Jogati?
It's not what makes me think. I think it's time. The people are ready to remove him. It's not my thinking.
Why are they ready to remove him?
Well, because for 60 years, we haven't really seen the level of development that we should have received.
Like what? Where?
From all sectors. When you look at let's start from infrastructure. Let's look at roads. When you look at all the roads in my entire constituency, I can tell you that I don't see one good road in the whole constituency.
I'm told the Fijai-Ifeakwanta road has been fixed. It doesn't count.
Fijai-Ifeakwanta road was fixed a long time ago, and he really had, I know the story, but I don't even want to go into it. So if after 16 years, and you can say that you've done one road.
What about the West Fijai road that is being tarred? It doesn't count?
What West Fijai road?
It's not being done?
Okay, let me mention the major roads in my constituency, because these small things that I feel like is not even worth mentioning.
Well, maybe for the people who live there, it might matter.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter that your road is done. What I'm saying is for 16 years, if you only say that you've done the Takrady Fijai, which he didn't even do, but let's give him that extra credit that he did. And the West Fijai thing, let's give him that extra credit. That road is not even 2 miles. When you're looking at our major roads, from the Kansa Road to the Ahanta Basan Road, and you're looking at people, market women with their market wares in the dusty road, and you're looking at taxi drivers covering their faces with handkerchiefs, and you're looking at the children, the dust on that road for 16 solid years. Let's go from the Diabene Agric Road. More dust, even more than the Kansa Road one. Let's go to the Crawford to Diabene, because it goes around and comes around. I don't know, good at calculation, but let's say round and round is about maybe 6 miles or maybe 10, 15 miles. Dust. And the people, when you see, I can't even imagine people living like this for 16 solid years.
But they have.
Yes. So
and voted heavily.
That is the problem. So now the people have a better option, and they're going to vote for me heavily. So it's really not even a fight. It is really that simple. You look at the Eshiem to Intamakrom Road is the same. Kojokrom to Esikado is the same. The whole constituency, there's not one proper quality road. Even the Kojokrom Road, the main one from Takrady. Now we're having a lot of problems with it. Because first of all, it has exceeded its capacity. It needs to be widened, maybe 2 lanes on each side, all those things. So what I can see from the constituency, there hasn't even been proper planning. That is infrastructure aside. Let's look at water and sanitation.
Yes.
People, I would say about 70 to 65% of our people still use public toilets. And some of these public toilets, let's take Esikado, because that is where I'm from. My mother is the Queen Mother, or my mother's sister is the Queen Mother. They are from same father, same mother, is the Queen Mother. Nana Kobnankete is my cousin. So let me take Esikado. Just Esikado itself. Some of the public toilets there were built before God in God's respect time. People still use public toilets there. You understand? And there hasn't been any new public toilet built. The one that is being built is like they started 2 years ago and they haven't even finished. You talk about water. Yes, we have water running in the taps. But now the town is expanding, so there are certain households that don't have water. When you go to the taxi station there, the market, there's only 2 people in the market because there's no roof, and the market structure is like, it needs to be redone.
You're painting a very...
It is the truth of the matter.
Picture of Escado Ketan.
It is the truth of the matter, Master. And I'm saying that we can change those things. I am saying that some constituencies have seen difference in the change of the MP alone. I'm saying that not anything personal. So see, because every time I say these things, people make it personal. But you remember, I haven't said anything personal. I'm only talking about the evidence on the ground and what I see in terms of our infrastructure. You look at recreation, even for our young men and women. There has been no recreation center built. There has been no football park really done. It's all like dust. So I don't know.
What's education like? You have a really famous school in the Fijai.
Fijai Secondary School.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
How's it faring?
It's a good school. I know a lot of people that went there. The previous headmaster, Master Kujo, is like a family friend, almost like our dad. So I know a lot of people who went there. It's a good school. Archbishop Portes is in my constituency. Great school. Of course, I went there, so I would say it's a great school. So we have good schools there. But now the population has increased, so we need more secondary schools. And I think that even more importantly, day schools. Because we are having problems housing the kids that we're asking them to go to secondary schools. So the day school would be a better option to get more people to go to school, but then after school they go home. Because most of the advanced countries, the free education is really free day school. It's not free boarding, you know? So look at our health system.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. There's a major hospital in your constituency.
It used to be a clinic. Then the clinic, because the population increased, it was now designated into a hospital. So I think that at this stage, we are even at a district hospital level. But we haven't received the necessary infrastructure and maybe health personnel to move it to the next level. So we need a full district hospital because our catchment area has significantly increased, but the hospital is still the same. You know, they've built a new, because Nana and his...
By Nana, which Nana do you mean?
Nana Nketia.
Okay.
And through his connections and his solicitation, we've had a new women's ward built. But the hospital doesn't have a pediatric ward. We don't have a cafeteria. It's still the old building before my great-grandmother's time, that the structure is still the old one. You know, so even the hospital alone has passed a district hospital level. Then you come down to like Chips compound. We have, as we speak today, from Kojo Krom to Iskado, there's a Chips compound that has been stuck in the bush. The previous government started it. They almost done, you have to put the roof and maybe put some equipment inside. And it's been sitting in the bush for the last 4 years. Meanwhile, people from the big part, now Kojo Krom is expanding all the way. You look at Ishim, going all the way to Intama Krom. Eno is there, you know, in Chaban Kwante. So all those towns are like just growing out of proportion. And now they all have to use this Iskado hospital. And the road is bad. So if people were coming from that area, it would have been better if they had, for instance, a trauma patient. If you had a hospital, a small place in between to stabilize the person and then transfer them to the hospital. The thing is still in the bush. So by the time you get from wherever you're coming from to Iskado Hospital, you probably won't make it, or your situation will be worse. So I don't know what sector that you want me to discuss that I can even say that we're making some progress.
What kind of economic activities do the people there engage in?
It depends. When you look at all the fishing, you know, the Injesia and Isikado itself, and my constituency, or actually is my hometown, ends in European town. So people think it's Sekeni, but it's part of it. It's a whole the Isikado part. So all those people around the Oceanside are fisher folks because that's the big industry there. Then when you go up to Ahanta, Basa, and Ishim, and Intama Krom, and all those places in the interior part, it's all farming and different kinds of farming. Some of them is cassava, some is plantain. It just depends. It's a very big constituency, and we have a lot of market women, and we have a lot of traders. Okay. So it's a combination of everything in all classes. And very interesting. I like it.
Okay. But what gives you the hope, considering the fact that you describe a situation where people see black and red and rarely see just the problem? For 16 years, people have seen just black and red in your Sikado Ketan constituency. The numbers do not lie. What makes you think you are going to be able to change this?
Because in 2020, they're going to be convinced that we're not going to see black and red, because this time we want development, we want infrastructure, we want better schools, we want people who really care about us. So we're not going to throw our votes away or vote blindly.
Are they telling you this?
Yes. We're not going to vote.
Or you've just convinced yourself?
No, this is word on the street, or stuff people are telling me. Because all I'm doing is offer them a better alternative. Listen, it's not like the end of my road, right? But it's two options. One of the old, which has done the same thing for 16 years, and you see, this one is evidence-based. When you wake up in the morning, you see your life, right, for 16 years. And another person who's coming and saying that, listen, this is not how it's supposed to be. It maybe not be like skyscrapers and everything, but it could be better. And I'm offering you a better alternative because I know better, I care, I'm a woman, I have empathy, I have the brain, and I do care about the people, and this is what I'm offering. So it's just a simple, basic math, and people will choose whomever they think is better for them.
And you're confident,
and I'm confident that it's going to be
you
Absolutely.
In December 2020.
100%.
Dr. Grace Ayensu Danquah's hand will be raised as the new member of parliament
100%.
for Eskado. So, Doc, let's talk about the COVID committee that the NDC have said. There are those who've said that with the skill set and the background that you have, you could have offered yourself up to the public service to help with the general education. But you've allowed yourself to be drawn into a political committee of sorts that offers no benefits.
No, I think, like I said, I'm doing a lot in my community. I've given myself personally, given my own private PPEs to some of the hospitals. I have donated hand sanitizers. I'm trying to give almost all the markets, the Veronica markets with soap to teach them how to do proper hand washing. I've embarked on extensive public health education. Okay. So there's no town. I go in the morning at 5 a.m. and I sit at the PA system and I talk for about 45 minutes, starting from what coronavirus, because there's a lot of misconception and confusion out there. So I start from what is coronavirus and I explain it in basic, simple terms in our local language, and I get a lot of feedback. So that is my bit that I'm doing to help with public education.
Okay.
Yes. But then my party calls me and says that we need you to bring your expertise to this team. I think it's very commendable, and I'm really privileged to be on the team.
So you're not bothered by those who say that you are merely offering suggestions that you could have passed on if you wanted to, without necessarily being part of the committee?
Well, so I'm very privileged and excited to be on the team. We have not just offered just suggestions. We had a press conference yesterday. The people who really cared to listen would have known that it was not even political.
Okay. What are some of the things you said?
Let me tell you something.
Tell me.
In every country, when they are in a big crisis, like a global pandemic, what we've seen in China, what we've seen in Italy, what we've seen in Spain, the country gets together, comes together as a team. They don't do party politics. We come together as Ghanaians first. Then we protect Ghanaian lives first. So this team has never been political. Yes, granted that it was the former president who called us. But he only called us because he realized in his wisdom that within the party, there's a group of people that have this exceptional knowledge, right, and expertise. In other words, some of the people even on the team actually handled the Ebola crisis. Like the people were actually on the ground zero for Ebola crisis. So if you have a new pandemic and somebody who has done a pandemic before, why would you even call that person to come and be on your team? It's the person who's supposed to come and say, oh, please put me on your team. Let me tell you something, I'm a surgeon. If I'm going to do a certain procedure, for instance, I'm there and some procedure comes and I know that this is going to be a difficult procedure. I've done it before, but I might need a second opinion. I might need somebody to look at it and say, okay, I would do this, I would do that. I pick up the phone and I call the people that I know who are experts in that field and say, listen, I have this procedure tomorrow. This is what I think I'll do. This is what I think I'll do. But what do you think? Or if you're available, just stop by my theater and let's talk. Right now, when I'm in Takoradi, when something happens in some of our hospitals, they call me in the middle of the night. Not because the doctors there don't know how to do it, because they want a second opinion. And that's how we work. Because there's nothing wrong with seeking advice and opinion. Because what it only helps and goes to enhance what it is you're doing. So this global pandemic that we've seen the movie, you look at the Chinese and you see the movie. Italy is even worse. In one day, they can have 300 people dead. Have you read it? The other day I heard like 700 or something dead in 24 hours. We went from 27 to 50 something in less than 24 hours. So we have seen this movie before. We are saying that there are people in this country who have managed bigger and better or even maybe equal pandemics. And they haven't been called. So what is wrong if President Mahama is trying to offer help and say, I have these people in my party. Maybe they haven't come up to say that, President, please, I will help you or will help the country. So let me put together a team of experts who have the technical knowledge, technical ability, intellectual might to help the government make some suggestions. We state the problem, and so we didn't just come and say this. We gave solutions to the problem because our goal is to give solutions, not to just criticize or say things. Right. So nowhere did we even criticize. We stated the problems and we gave solutions.
What are some of the highlights of the problems and solutions? I saw the one that stuck out for me was you want an emphasis on communication.
Yeah, so we did it in four big themes. The first one was public health management. Mm-hmm. The second one was the robust information management. That was the transparency and things that I talked about. The third one was the community impact mitigation. And the last one was finances.
Okay.
Yes, because you can talk all you want, but if you don't have the money, then you are just talking, because everything else will boil down to logistics and how you find the funding for it. Okay. So we didn't just talk and just say anything. Not only did we have these broad topics and discussed it into detail, we even gave suggestion of where to find the money to do the work.
So where are we going to find the money? Because the finance minister is looking for money.
Yes, so we've helped him to find the money because beginning of this year, the government did a Eurobond, like $3 billion Eurobond. Out of that $3 billion, they kept $1 billion as some sort of a contingency thing where the government's idea for that $1 billion was now to go and use it to kind of service loans. Or I'm not a finance person, so if I use the wrong term,
don't worry.
I tried accounting, I didn't do well. So my understanding is that they were going to use that $1 billion to kind of buy other people's loans and service it of some sort. Okay, so that's what the $1 billion is for. And we are saying that because we are in a crisis situation, a global pandemic, an emergency, countries have declared war on coronavirus. So we are almost in like war times. Let's take the money. The money is $1 billion. Take 100 million out of it, because the president himself says he needs 100 million, or 50 million, however amount you want. But we are saying that take your 100 million out of that 1 billion and use it to do these things. Because the 1 billion after the president said, then the next day or 2 days later, the finance minister went to parliament and now was stating the actual details of where he was going to get that 1 billion. Part of it was WHO, part of it is IMF, part of it is World Bank. You know, he stated where he was going to source this money from. So now that we're already in this situation, how is it that today, now that you're going to source the funds? So we are saying that there's nothing wrong with sourcing the funds. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that until you go and even write the document to source the funds,
Okay.
Let's use the money that we already have because we're in an emergency situation, so we need an immediate contingency plan.
Okay.
That is what everybody does in case of emergency, even at household. When the bank is closed, and there's some small money that you keep just in case of emergencies. So we are saying that take that 100 million out of that money and immediately purchase the things that we need, because as we speak right now, you look at the Western region, the whole Western region. We have one quarantine center that is some old TB building that the road to the place is even bad. They haven't added one more bed to this place since this coronavirus thing.
You've seen it?
Do you know that is what I do? I like the healthcare, and I know the coronavirus and how the effect it's going to have on the Western region and especially my constituency. So I need to know what we have on the ground so that if something happens, I can help manage it in my local vicinity. And the only way you know that is to seek information and know things for yourself.
Okay.
So most of my frontline workers haven't received the PPEs. We don't have a testing center. The whole Western region doesn't have a testing center. The whole Western region doesn't have one ICU or one ventilator. Imagine, I mean, for me, it's even mind-boggling.
All right, hold on for me, Dr. Grace Ayensu Danquah. Face to Face, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the final segment of Face to Face with Dr. Grace Ayensu Danquah. So, Doc, the committee is working, obviously. Mm-hmm. You've given suggestions, and we'll expect more updates as and when, right?
Yes.
Now, let's talk a bit about the humanitarian side as well, because I read a couple of interesting things that you've been doing. You like going out to these secondary schools to talk to the girls in secondary schools. Talk to us a bit about that. What is that about? Well,
because I'm a woman and because I have worked hard to get to where I am, especially even for the surgical field in America, general surgery. By the time I finished my surgical training, maybe I was one of 2 or 3 women. And of course, the other 2 were Caucasian and the only black there. And 99.9% male, white male-dominated field. So half of the time, or most of the time, I'm going to find myself being the only woman in the room. Not just the only woman, being the only black woman in the room. Not just the only black woman, but the only African black woman in the room. So I call it the triple negatives or the triple threat, you know. So throughout your whole life, you have to work hard and maybe do extra things. And when your colleagues are doing some things, when they say, oh, yeah, you've done well, you have to do 3 times as much for you to even get the smallest recognition. That is just the way it is. I'm not even complaining. I'm used to it. So it's not that I'm complaining. So I realized that it's difficult for women to get to those positions. So what I do is I mentor a lot of girls. I go to secondary schools. Right now I have about 50 women that I actually mentor, that I call, not just mentoring, but to make sure that they succeed. So it's one thing when you give them advice. Mm-hmm. And it's another thing when you make sure that there's a job opening and I go find the job and say, listen, I've seen this thing. I think you would do good. So this is the application. Go and fill it and bring it. Let me help you. How much fees we have to pay for the application, and let's take it together for you to get the job. Then I can follow up and say, oh, one of my friends or mentors, mentees came for this job, and so what do I do, and will she get the job? And follow up and make sure. It's called surety. So you mentor them, and not just mentor them, but you make sure that they succeed. Because when you look at Ghana even as a whole, our representation as women, it's only like we have 0 representation really, because we are the majority of the people, but we don't have the representation. So we need more women representatives. The president said he wants to see more activism and dynamism. So all I'm doing is showing him activism and the dynamism he has.
But speaking of which, I forgot to ask, you relocated with your entire family, or you came alone?
I relocated with my entire family.
Okay, so the social support is there for what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, then.
And I still have a lot of jobs. I mean, I still sit on a lot of boards, and I still have a lot of jobs internationally, so I'm good.
All right, then. Thank you very much for passing through face-to-face Dr. Grace Ayensu Danquah, NDC parliamentary candidate for the Sikado Ketan constituency in the Western region. She's very, very confident that come December 2020, she will become the member of Parliament. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. My name is Godfred Akoto Boateng. Have a good day.